GM one and all, welcome to our weekly tactical all hands meeting. We're going to use this time to sync up on work going on around our organization, eliminate blockers, and prioritize work for the next week. Now, just a note that this call is recorded, and often we share clips on social media. If you don't want to be shared, please say so in the meeting. If you want to know why we're here, well, we're aiming to help purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. And there's that little BCard article if you want to know more. On the leg metric side, last week we had $336 in transaction volume, so that's down 550. And also as well, the amount of money that our endowment fund is giving out is also down too, because interest rates are lower on those assets. So yeah, things are going down around in general, but as long as we keep moving forward, I think we can continue. On the lead metric side, we have 6 weekly transacting users. We have 0 new users and 11 communities deployed. So the weekly transacting users pretty much steady over the last couple of weeks. The new users went down after the ChippyCon execution that we were doing. So I think I think it just goes to show you that those kinds of events are pretty interesting for us. And the 11 communities deployed, well, we're not really aiming to have like hundreds of communities right now. We're not at that point. Our goal was 10 until the next thing. So we're aiming to get each of these at 10 weekly transacting users, 10 new users a week, and 10 communities deployed. So we will opportunistically add communities. A couple team-wide announcements. We really got to work on our taxes and filings. I did get charged by a registrar. They said that they're just going to send our taxes for us, and I was like, that doesn't really make sense. I'm going to look into that today, Steve, because I know that you've been working on the taxes, and we'll discuss that a little bit later, but I'm not really sure.
Okay, maybe we should talk, because that sounds kind of strange that that's like when you have a company out in public, you get all sorts of solicitations for people willing to do stuff for you if you pay them money.
This is our actual registrar who has our credit card on file.
Okay.
And they actually sent us they actually sent us like they actually said that, hey, we'll just do it for you. So I'm wondering, like, is it really that easy? Like, don't we have to say what our income and expenses were? Anyways, we'll see, right?
Okay.
I'll look into it, but maybe it's a service we can use to make things easier for ourselves, but I still think that there's missing information.
Okay.
So we shall see.
We'll chat.
Yeah, sounds good. We also need to get our Panama filing in, and this is so our Delaware filing is for our kind of fiat operations. So our card issuing and our just mainly our card issuing. And our Panama is for our on-chain activities. So this will be kind of like grants that we get and stuff like that. So for Panama filing, we really just need to do like a balance sheet or profit and loss statement, which I'll probably try to take care of this week if I can. All right, going down into our milestones, we have 10 weekly transacting users, airdrop rewards. So this is in progress. Tom, did you want to give an update on this? I know you're on the road, but
the backend re-architecture has started. I've sort of wrapped my mind around the framework for a phased-in implementation to get the new rewards deployer in place, and I'm hoping by the end of the week to have some prototypes up that we can start firing some tokens around for test. So hopefully coming soon.
Nice. That'll be great. Excited about that one. In-app voting. The next step is to drop a token to all users, and so we'll use the airdrop rewards to actually do that. In the worst case, we can drop them a bunch of Bank on OP, because Bank does have voting rights in our monthly in real life meetups. Also, we'll mention that one of our users tried to vote and they couldn't because they don't have the token. So all this to say that there's at least some demand there, and there's at least someone who's trying the voting, and I think that's really important. Excuse me. And so I'm also going to reach out to OMF by showing them the experience of voting. Something CryptoDad and I talked about, and I'll get into a little bit further down, is just that for as we started to do cold outreach to new communities, it seems like the amount of revenue that we can provide them, and we talked about this again last week at this time. The amount of revenue that we can provide them is not a lot for a smaller community, especially, and that's kind of the communities that we're aiming for right now. So what else can we offer them? Like a business works by providing more value than cost, right? And so we don't charge like a cost. What we end up charging, it looks like, is time and attention, right? So for a lot of these smaller community leaders, at least for these independent journalists, they have a bunch of ways that they could make money. They are comfortable making monies in a couple of ways. And so they're wary of new products who are kind of offering them new revenue streams and stuff like that. At least that's what it seems like from the initial, all of these were like text-based cold reach outs. So I think that it's really, it's only, a piece of the puzzle, but I do think that it's something that we've been saying we need to increase the value of our product. And in that voting was a piece of that. I don't think it's going to be the end of that. The endowment fund is also part of that too. I think like the key is what is the value that will get people to kind of sit up and take notice, right? I don't think it's just going to be any one thing. I think it's going to be how some of these things interact together. And we do have some indication of how that was working with DAOs, right? All of a sudden people were really excited. Hey, we can like putting our money together. Oh, that's not that interesting. Anyone could do that. Putting our money together to buy a basketball team or to buy the US Constitution. Oh, that's really interesting. I could be a part owner of the US Constitution. That starts to be interesting, right? And so I said this a couple of times, product market fit is the audience that you're aiming for, the value that you're giving them, and the way that you deliver that value. Right now, we're really kind of building the value. I think that's something that Tom and I are working on, building that value. And I think that the audience and the way that we provide that value to them is what we're really kind of, let's say, that's the problem that we're focusing on right now. Does that work? Does that make sense to people?
Yeah, definitely. The original sort of value proposition of help fund your community only really works when our fees are high enough and volume is high enough. And even though it does work communally, the more transaction each community has, the more potential, well, the more percentage of that revenue we actually get. It's still a small amount when you consider a community with 100, even 100 active users isn't going to be massive. You really have to get into like the 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 users to really be able to reap that reward. So yeah, finding additional value adds, I think, is not even finding additional value adds, because these are things that we've all talked about before, but rather implementing additional value adds. So yeah, that definitely tracks.
Well, we'll be working on that as we go. For us, it's really about relentlessness more than speed. So let's just keep moving forward, especially while it seems like it's not just the crypto market in a bit of a bear now. Now it seems like it's other markets too.
I'd kind of like to double down on what NF Thinker said. One of my big concerns there too is that in order to get enough traction on fee sharing side, you have to have got to have a lot of people at that fee amount to even make a negligible impact. Frankly, it's a rounding error at this point, and it's going to be a rounding error for a long time. And to me, that's the biggest problem. And so, and then I look at these other things, like I was just looking at MetaMask the other day. I was doing a swap, and I saw MetaMask is they're going to, guess what? They're going to be issuing their card too, and there's a whole page there when you go into MetaMask, and they're linking it right in there, the on off ramp, debit credit card kind of thing. So everybody's doing it, and they're doing it with a lot more marketing dollars. And so even between crypto and TradFi, there's so much competition out there with so many affinity cards and all of that. Anyway, getting back to it, I think, like Anna Thinker said, the place where we're going to differentiate is offering things that those companies cannot or do not want to do. That really don't, that are other than just the fee return. Because I know I mean, it's a compelling argument when you talk about it, but when you put it down into a spreadsheet, you're like, well, this is, it's not compelling, I have to say. When we talk about the size of the community and how much traction we've got to get, it just seems like the getting to a critical mass is too far in the future based on that being the priority, I guess is what I'm saying. So we definitely need to figure out other things that drive attention and drive usage other than the fee return, because it's not going to be enough, I don't think. That's just, I've been thinking this a lot. I didn't want to say it, but to me, that's a big problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
I
right.
think
It's no, just quickly. I definitely think it's about the different things that we offer, because MetaMask card, Gnosis card, those are really about spend your crypto easily, earn 3% cash back, right? That's the main thing that they're offering,
Right.
is spend your crypto easily, get cash back. And it's very individualistic. So what we're doing is more community based. So leaning on that as much as possible is a win.
One of the
Yeah.
things I really like that Tom has implemented, when I go into the BCard app now and I see my collectibles in there, I'm now seeing my chippies, because Tom has basically whitelisted, I guess, the chippy contract. And this brings something else to my mind, which is my OG wallet is it's just a, and I'm sure everybody's got the same situation. Guys, there's so much shit in there that's just been dropped to you that you don't know what it is, if it's a scam coin or whatever. What I would love is a whitelisted view of what's in my damn wallet. And what Tom has provided is exactly that inside the BCard app. Anyway, it just hit me yesterday when I was looking at that stuff. I'm like, wow, this is a curated view of the collectibles I care about. A handful of them, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like collectible container, it's just the beginning, right? Like it's there's a lot more you can do with that, and there's like some things around identity that you, Crypto Dad, and Tom have talked about in the past. I think are really important. That identity is part of some of those NFTs that you have. You know, that chippy is part of your on-chain identity. That like shadowy supercoder from DAOpunks is part of your on-chain identity.
Right. And to me, that's a value add, that curated view of the stuff that you actually put in there, as opposed to shit that got dropped into your wallet. To me, that's a huge value add, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we all have that problem. Crypto natives have that problem.
Yeah.
And it's a pain point.
It's a pain point, and you know, a lot of like when you're looking at your wallet, you are seeing a whitelist, right? And so it's like really that whitelist is based upon what are scams and what are not scams. It's just because like they're starting from a whole basically they have a block list of what they don't show, right? And so it's basically like everything is like on by default. And I think like this is for most like wallets. And then you have some like centralized exchanges who they have an allow list, and they want to move to a more block list side of things, right? So it's really it's an interesting space for us to play in, because we have different values than like a centralized exchange and even a wallet, right? Like for them, they're really geared towards making you do as many transactions as possible. And for us, it's true that we make money when people do transactions, but the difference is that like we're not aiming to get them to do transactions for transactions' sake. We're aiming to get them to experience that community feeling, right? And so there's a difference there, because we can potentially leverage that community feeling, and you know that's our goal more so than just making money, right? Like it's purpose over profit for us.
Yep. for
anyways,
sure.
there's lots of
And how
space
do you
for us
turn
to
it into
play here.
revenue is the question, right?
Yeah, I think like there are multiple ways for us to turn it into revenue, but first we have to build something that's interesting to people. Like if it's like there's never going to be any revenue if you're not building anything interesting, right? Like even if you're getting there's a lot of people who build in this space who build something that VCs like, but they're not building anything that any humans like. And so, they launch it and they maybe they'll get a bunch of airdrop farmers and that kind of thing, but they don't actually get lasting use. Um, I would say that that's like 90% of the products in the space, maybe even more, right? So if we start from a place of, hey, people actually want to use this thing, and we think about revenue later, I mean, we're still thinking about revenue, right? We're still thinking about that long term, but we're not. That's not our primary goal right now, at least.
Yep.
All right. So last week I reached out to some independent journalists. So far, not a lot of uptake and interest for the reasons that I just said. Feels like revenue is not enough to get them excited, so we need to work on the engagement piece. We're gonna try to set Arcus D, our crypto dad, and I are gonna try to set some time to talk about that. The engagement part of it. We're also gonna. Well, this is something I probably have to do. I just honestly just want to like reach out to like 50 people. So I just need to make a list of like 50 people to cold outreach and then reach out to them. I think that that if I really set my mind to it, could probably be done in a day. Unfortunately, I haven't had a day recently, and so it would be something that I. Anyways, if anyone wants to take this on, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to work on it myself at some point. On the endowment fund side, we have our current vote up, and we do need to spread it on socials a little bit more. I haven't had a chance recently, but I'll try to do it today. I also want to write a proposal for purple funding. So, I did update the website for that reason. The big things were adding a place for sponsors and other places to show our previously funded events. So you can see a bit of a history here. Oh, thanks, Shelby. Yeah, potentially I'll make that list and then you can reach out to people as well. So next up is try a proposal for purple funding. Taxman, last step is to send an email to our list. Haven't done that yet. 10 high quality communities. Well, we're really going to be doing that opportunistically. We do have Glow Dollar out. They're not answering my emails. I don't know. And if Thinker, do you want to reach out to Glow Dollar? Do you still have a contact over there? I wonder if things are going badly.
Yeah, I'll try it on Telegram and see if he cuts back.
Great, thanks a lot. Yeah, I reached out to them like 2 or 3 times in the last week with no response, and on Farcaster too. So that was kind of weird. Anyways, we shall see. All right. Moving forward on the task perspective side, let's pop in to Asana. All right. So in-app voting is, well, I guess it's still like one of the projects that we're doing. The audit all databases for card data. This is all done. So in general, there is all of the personal data that our users had that was in our database is now gone. So that is a big win for us. Thanks, Tom. So going down this list, March 2025 monthly chores. I have not calculated the rewards nor posted on social. So that's something I need to do. Community leader outreach. This is something Crypto Data and I have been working on. Our first customer segment was those independent journalists. And Crypto Data is aiming to do some influencers, which I think is kind of interesting. Then one thing about influencers that I think is a little bit more interesting even is the fact that they tend to have like a lot of followers that are low engagement followers. And so it's not like a small community of 100 people. It's like a community centered around a single person that is, millions of people potentially. And so our product, even though there's a small amount of revenue, it could work for these kinds of influencers. Ensure everyone with a B card at the event gets an NFT. Yeah, so this was because the B card wasn't necessarily working. And so did you get a list of those people who had a B card at the event, Rose?
So I don't know who has a B card, but I do. I went through my pictures, which I haven't posted yet, but and I've been able to identify pretty much everybody was there. I know who they are, and so I have a list of those, but I don't know who all of those have B cards. So
I mean, if you give me the list, I can try to cross-reference against our user list and see. There's some people who are very obvious. Obviously, we should send one to Blue Bear, for instance. He
Right,
obviously
of
had a blue,
course.
and he was there. And then I think there's like the Thriller, and there's a couple of other people on the Chippy server. So I can also like maybe go into the Chippy server and maybe ask a couple people who are talking about BCard if they actually had it at the event. And
I mean, I can do that, but I thought maybe you guys had I don't know if you have some kind of it's none of my business and it's private information, but I don't know if there's some way for you, if you have like a B card user list, and I can put in what I know the real names are next to people here, so we can kind of match them up if you want to do it that way, just privately. I don't want to publish this spreadsheet anywhere, but
So if you have a spreadsheet and you share it with me, I can do my best to cross-reference. I mean, we only have like 120 BCard users, right? So I can just go through that list manually.
right, exactly. And I've got my list here. It's basically 25 people, and there were 3 randos. Everybody else I knew.
Okay, great. Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, so share the list with me and Tom. I'll send you my email in DMs.
Okay, cool.
And, yeah, let me just do that right now so you can share it with me. Tom, would you mind also? Well, you know what? I know you're driving, Tom. So
Yeah, I can share with you guys. It's not a big deal. I have your email addresses and stuff. I can put in a Google Doc or something, or just
okay,
a list.
great. All right, I just DM'd you mine at least.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
great. Okay. Year-end taxes and more. So we talked about this a little bit, but Arcusty, how's this going with you?
Gotta find my mic thing. So I did work a bit on it yesterday, but I think we need to just talk and exchange notes on what you got from the registrar, because I think I know what they're proposing to do, but I've got some other ideas.
Okay, sounds good. I'll follow up with you later today about this.
Okay.
Let me just write that down. Otherwise, I'm as my mom used to say, I'd forget my head if it wasn't attached. So I'm gonna go ahead and write that down so I don't forget it. All right. Check into the charge from registrar, connect with our custody about it. All right, great. Okay, so that's there. And all right, and for the Panama Foundation, I'm hoping this week I can do like a P&L on just our multi-sigs. The nice thing about our multi-sig as well is that we did move all of our assets into the same address on multiple chains. So there's one address, and I think we have like Base, OP, Arbitrum, and Ethereum mainnet. So that's nice. That should make it a little bit easier. Actually, I'm wondering if I can just use Taxman to do this. It'll be an interesting experiment. I actually think I can just use Taxman to do this.
I'm actually looking at that right now on the
Yeah.
side.
Okay. Nice. Cool. So doing business taxes on Taxman, that could be a nice use case for us. All right. Identity messaging and growth dashboard. So this is kind of what we were talking about. I mean, it's very related to the community leader research, except that this is more on the kind of like messaging and let's say this is like the one-on-one side, and this is like the one-to-many side. I think that like what we could do without even talking to people is just throw some landing pages up, throw some messaging up, and see what hits. The only problem with that is that it's harder to be systematic with that, because some of the messages that we put on, like let's say if we're putting in the ad, we may get high click-through rates, but we may not be able to necessarily link those with what's on the landing page itself. We probably can. Anyways, all this to say, this is one of 2 fronts we're working on, and I just haven't had a chance to really work on it. So hopefully we can push that a little bit further. On the upside, we do have that Chippy landing page, and I did promise Shelby this week that we would create a landing page together. So I don't know if you have time later today, Shelby, to work on something like that.
I absolutely do. I have all day. I'm doing nothing.
Okay.
Whenever you're free.
So probably can do it a little bit later today. Let me just look at my schedule. The annoying part about my schedule right now is I have 2 different computers and I can't connect them. And so I have to look at both computers before I can say, yeah, so like pretty much today I'm going to be like most of the day I'm going to be available. So maybe 10:30, so like in about an hour.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. So let me just write that in my list too. Okay, great. Glow dollar from a communication perspective. We just talked about this. Sent Bram multiple messages with no response. Looks like we need to try another avenue. Okay. We talked about the automatically dropping rewards to users' embedded wallets. Actually, this is a little bit more important than some of these other things. So put it up here. Doink. And taxes actually are pretty important too. So I'll put them up here. I'll reduce this one. Put the community leader research here and identity messaging here. Okay. Yeah, so I will yeah, so we already talked about that. We don't need to talk about it again. Black Flag Endowment Fund. Yeah, so I mean I do think that this is kind of like a potentially interesting way for us to create some engagement. So like we talked about, that the amount that you get with the card is not that much, right? Like we, as a community, you're getting 0.1% of transactions, so it's not a lot, right? But with an endowment fund, people can put money in and they can take money out, and that money could actually yield a lot more percentage. That could yield like right now it's yielding like something like 4%. On the high end, in I think like December, it was yielding like 10%, right? And so the key is how do we actually enable people to do that with their with how do we enable people to do that? Because like people who are in the crypto space, even then it's kind of hard for them to do that. But it's even harder for people in the fiat space. And I thought I had a potential way to do it with Braille. But now that Glow Dollar's not answering my messages, that avenue may not be available to us. So anyways, we had a bunch of other things on the pipe right now. And so I'm really just working on making the endowment fund kind of work with the Black Flag, with the in real life events. But I do think that this is like kind of when we are done a lot of this other stuff, like a lot of the stuff that we're working on the product side. I do think it's kind of like a worthy thing for us to take on. How can we make it easier for people to use this to deposit into endowment fund, because it hits direct to that kind of message. Hey, is this enough to get a community excited? Well, an endowment fund could be. All right, make in-app voting useful to the BCard and Black Flag collective team. This is, well, we kind of already talked about this. The next step for us really is to drop a bunch of tokens to people, and we haven't done that yet. So yeah, that kind of takes us to the end of the list. Taxman just need to send an email. Anything else on this list that people that we're working on that anything that people are working on that's not on this list? Okay. Then let's go down to what we shipped last week. So I shipped the new terms of use as required for compliance. I Cold Outreach 5, independent journalists. Tom cleaned out the old DB data for compliance reasons. Tom began the backend dashboard data prep for the new rewards deployer. And you can see a little screenshot here. There is like a little rewards control here. And yeah, anything else anyone shipped last week that they want to call out? No? Okay. So what I wanted to discuss today was something we had started to touch on, which was in real life events. Like in general, let's say the world needs more connection, right? Like I feel like in many ways right now, it feels like the world's very far apart. And one of the things that continually seems to be interesting to people are these in real life events. At least they keep showing up, right? And so on Farcaster, they have these Farcaster Fridays, which happen every month, and people keep showing up to those around the world, right? And so I'm trying to tap into that a little bit with Black Flag Collective. But if you look at ChippyCon, people showed up, right? If you look at even just ETH Denver, people showed up. People show up not because they want to go to this industry conference because they are financially motivated to do so. Although that may be the case, people show up because they want to hang out with the people that they know, that they feel similar, that they have similar values and different things like that. So yeah, I think that these in real life events, there's something here. We're trying to tap into that a little bit with this Black Flag Endowment Fund. But yeah, I wanted to discuss that. How can we better use these in real life events to create connections with people? Is there any way that we can encourage them? Is there any way that we can help them along? Is my premise even okay? Does it make sense, the things that I'm saying? Do you show up to in real life events because you actually want to be there?
Well, yeah. People show up to real life events either because they have to, or they want to, or they're curious. And there's a certain amount of FOMO, right? Especially if there's competing events. That's usually not, well, no, that is the case. There's always competing events any day of the week. But if it's concentrated at a conference, it's even more difficult. But I think getting back to just a normal situation where you don't have a concentration of everything at once, what motivates people to go? It's either seeing friends you haven't seen in a while. I think that's number one, I would say. Getting something, opportunity to win something. I don't think that for me anymore isn't that much of a motivator. We all know that people are just these entities are just wanting to capture your contact information.
Yeah.
Most, so it's like, yeah, sure. There's some giveaway, whatever. And then part of what I think about is, okay, yeah, you do the thing, then what? Right? What's the follow on? How do you maintain that connection? Just like seeing people at East Denver, it's like, okay, see you next year, maybe. That's there has to be something in between. How do you keep that alive in between? And
That's actually a really pertinent question. It's something that I think I would really like for that's the space that I think I would like to play in. When we've talked in the past about, like, for instance, this Black Flag Collective site, right? Like there is no place here for someone to sign up to get updated about events. There's no place here which shows upcoming events. So even if you're like, hey, I had a real fun time at that meeting, when's the next one? There's no place here which shows you, right? Like, so the way that I do my individual event is on Farcaster, but I found that there was someone who came in from out of town, and they were like, "Hey, I like texted a bunch of people on LinkedIn." And then that event was the biggest event we've ever had. But all of those people were not on Farcaster, so they were kind of gone after that. So I think like there is some opportunity for us to create like an accessible way for people to be kept in the loop, for things that they actually want to be kept in the loop on, right? So yeah, I think it's a really pertinent point. How do you keep that connection? There are some people who will not join a Discord. There are some people who will not join a Twitter. There are some people who will not join a Facebook. There's some people who will not give their email. There's some people who will not do whatever, right? But anyone can access a website, right? And so I think that there's some way for us to do things to encourage people there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm not
in
sure
the
what
world,
it is
in a
either.
world of distraction, and competing priorities, and even the things you care about, you miss. It's like, damn it, you know. So yeah, I keep thinking about curation of my wallet, curation of things I care about, all that stuff, because there's so much noise. Yeah. Anyway, good to ponder that.
It is good to ponder that. Anyone else have anything to say on this? I mean, I know all of you have been to in real life events.
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree that the the main purpose for me of an in real life event is to get to know people, get to know projects, come closer to those people and those brands, put faces to names, and generally just enjoy myself. The reason why I have cut back on going to in real life events is because there's no monetary incentive to go to these currently, and so it just becomes unaffordable. Like trying to fly halfway across the world and then 5 days in a hotel and food and it just adds up. But the desire to be there is still there. I got FOMO from missing out on SippyCon and missing out in Denver. A bunch of people were there that would have been great to see. But in terms of like what drives me to want to go to an event, it's really just to see people, meet people, socialize, get out of the house, and I think that that's kind of what it's all about, right? Community and socializing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's
A good hang.
a good hang.
Exactly, a good hang. Hang 10, baby.
Yeah, I mean, how often do we have a good hang anymore? I can count on a couple of hands the really good hangs, where you're in that zone. And I'm not talking about, being all wasted. I'm talking about you're in the right room, it just feels right.
Yeah.
And trying to have more of those, that's the dopa hit I want.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's especially for these crypto events, like I run into people in real life, people from my kids' school, even my wife, my family. But there are people who don't necessarily have the same interests as I do. So I think like just like going to these in real life events, that there's like it's a different aspect of myself that I'm indulging in some ways, right? Like it's that good hang, but it's in a different way than I might have another hang. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you're able to roll out a different version of yourself than you are. Yeah, I think that's part of the reason we go to themed things, right? Or affinity groups or whatever, is we can just embrace that part of ourselves that in other contexts, you kind of have to. It's like that meme with the guy standing in the corner at the party. You're not the guy standing in the corner of the party. You're in the party because everybody's there for, you've got some commonality that links everybody together. And keying in on that, that's where the magic is. And yeah, how do you make that happen?
And going back to that idea of a good hang, I think like even more now recently, I don't know. I wasn't feeling it when I lived in Montreal. In Montreal, it felt like everyone was hanging all the time. Like there was just like you would walk down the street at 3 a.m. and there would be some people just chatting on the corner, and it looked like they just had dinner at 10 p.m. and they finished and they just sat on they just started talking on the corner, and the conversation was so engrossing that they just never left. Right. So I think like when I moved back to Toronto, that just didn't happen as much. I see a lot more people walking alone. Yeah, of course, there are people talking in restaurants and other things like that, but it's not the same. It's not like that idea of that like a good hang. When was the last time we had a good hang? It feels like that is just not as pervasive as it used to be. Like everyone's in a rush, everyone has somewhere to be. And so you don't have that space in your life to just kind of relax and do nothing and just like kind of indulge like a one-on-one conversation with someone, right? Like getting to know a little bit about someone, that kind of human connection. I think that there was this like it's almost like people adopted social media and they're like, oh, this is my human connection now. But I actually think that social media gave us the opposite of connection. It actually created a bunch of disconnections in people that didn't really exist before. And it just kind of amplified it. Took these like small cracks in our humanity and just like amplified them to the place where you could just hate someone without even knowing them, without even seeing them, without even like doing anything. Like the algorithms are designed to create hate. Whereas these in-person events, it's much harder to hate someone when you're just like staring them in the face and talking with them earnestly. Right? Like I think like these in
100%.
real life, yeah.
100%. I mean, I don't want to sound maudlin or dramatic, but I mean, I think fate of humanity hangs in the balance. I mean, I know that sounds kind of ominous, but
No, I agree with you. I think that like we're not so far from that. Wall-E, that movie with the
oh
robot
yeah,
and the humans are just kind of like sitting amusing themselves to death, right? Um, I think the further we get from that human connection, that ability to appreciate like the real world, it's not good for us. Like we exist in the real world to separate ourselves from that. It just doesn't make sense.
I mean, if you want to get into conversations around the meaning of life and existence, uh, topic I've explored many times. And I do feel slightly more enlightened, but you're right. I mean, this is one of the things that going all the way back within our community here, going all the way back to Bankless Academy, which many of us have been involved in some way, shape, or form, um, around the original branding and the original kind of feel of what we wanted to achieve was, from my perspective, really sort of based around connecting that idea of being a human, being sort of having these human values and these human experiences, and what technology can give us. Because as we propel ourselves towards AGI and our digital overlords, at some point, we reach that singularity. But what happens to humanity? And humanity is really, you know, our physical existence here on Earth and going through challenges, and through those challenges, reaping the rewards of success or failure and learning lessons. And as everything is done for us by AI, we kind of lose the meaning of what it is to be a human and to have those challenges. And everything just kind of gets handed to us. So we start to become kind of pets. And if I look at my own pets, I've got 2 cats, and they like to just sit inside and get pets all the time. But they do also like a challenge. They'll go out and hunt a mouse. They'll go out in the cold and tiptoe on the snow. And that's their experience, even though we've given them the ability to exist without having to do any of those things. They still seek them, and I think humans are the same, right? That's why people go and jump off cliffs and uh, you know climb mountains and ski and ride motorcycles at extreme speeds, because we want to experience life. So yeah, integrating human experiences into any product, I think, is important and valuable.
Yeah, so I'm gonna write that as a question because I think it's for how can we um like encourage human experiences? Because I had this like epiphany like a couple of years ago where I was just like, oh, like what is the purpose of humanity? Really, like people have said in the past that it's we are the universe observing itself, right? And so if you look at it through that lens, like our purpose as humans is just to experience, right? We if we are the universe experiencing itself, then it behooves us to experience, right? It behooves us to like go swim in that lake or go ski down that hill or go meet that person you've never met or go have those thoughts you've never had, right? I think that that idea of having experiences is really core to the human. I mean, the human experience, right? But humans can have such a wider range of experience than, like, say, a tree or a rock or something like that, right? Like we just have more sensory ability. We have the ability not only to sense things but also to change our environment as well. And so I think like when I'm looking at these in real life events, I am trying to create like this space where we can experience, where we can talk about these kinds of things, where we can create some sort of motivation in people to do something.
It's definitely a concept I've considered many times. The meaning of life, meaning of existence. Why are we here? And on a similar track, yes, we're here to experience. But I really think that the universe is about problem solving. It's an infinite problem solver, right? Like it it tests pathways, and if one pathway doesn't work, it goes back and tries again. And the same can be said across all genus and all forms of life. You test something until it works or doesn't work, and then you go back and try again. But yeah, that's a concept that really kind of drives a lot of my daily thinking. So yeah, I do think that integrating human experiences into a product, how we do that in our physical product, it comes down to things like in-app voting, things like community incentives and initiatives, allowing people to propose. I was talking to one of my family members recently about um, what digital communities bring and why blockchain, because my family is very tradfi and they don't really get the blockchain thing. And I was telling this my aunt in particular, I was telling her about our partnership with OMF and how they can eventually be using it in-app voting to vote on things. And she was really intrigued. Okay, so what do you vote on? How often do you have initiatives? And I said, well, it comes down to the community, and people can submit. So I explained the whole thing to her and she got it. She's very, like in the 70s or 60s or whatever, she was a card carrying communist, which is, that was the thing back in the day. So she's a very like politically active person. She's far from a communist nowadays. But she's a very liberal person, and it gelled with her. She's like, okay, I can see how you would really be incentivized to use a card like that if you were brought closer to your community. So yeah, bringing people closer to communities, that is a great goal for us.
Right. I do have a hard stop pretty soon. So I want to stop us there, but I just want to say that kind of thing you're talking about, when you vote on what, right? Like this idea that voting is engagement. I think that that's really important for us to explore right now that we have in-app voting. And so just wanted to double click on that. And it is something we're going to be exploring with OMF pretty soon. Anyways, just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. This is one of those spaces where I feel like I can indulge myself in a different way than I can in my day-to-day life and in my, let's call it my trad-fi life, right? In a regular job, you're maybe a little bit worried that you can't always bring your true self to, you can't bring your full self to work. And the goal with BCard is so that you can bring your full self here, whatever it is, right? Whether you're into breaking the system, or you're just into flower arranging or something like that. The idea is that we're creating a space where people can be themselves. That is what the black flag means, is that you are following your path. And so I just want to thank you all for allowing me to follow my path, because if it wasn't for that, then I think that I would have a sad life indeed. So I appreciate all of you, and thanks to you all.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Have a good one.
Travels. Bye.